Hello and welcome to Womb Magic. We are a show and a movement dedicated to cultivating and freeing the wild feminine within. Happy Friday and hello, Mandee. How is everything going for you today?
Hello, Heidi. I'm okay. I woke up. I get gout attacks sometimes, and I woke up and I've got a gout attack going on in my foot, so I couldn't go for my morning walk, and I've been using crutches and in pain, but I know how to manage it well. So a little bit of a downer, but not letting it take over my day or ruin my mood.
Mm, well, I'm happy you're here. Thank you for making the effort to join us. I know it's not easy when you have different health things that happen and trying to still be a part of society as life moves on. But I'm just really honored that you're here, and I hope you feel better really soon.
Oh, thanks. And that's the thing. And I like that we hold this womb magic space because sometimes, you're going to wake up and things aren't going to go well. And especially if you're a woman, odds are you have something that, might come back and be recurrent and might bother you or cause pain or illness or disease. And, it's important to love ourselves through that and not beat ourselves up through it. And so this morning when I woke up and I couldn't put my foot down, and I was like, oh no, this is so painful. I just kept saying to my foot, I was like, I love you so much. Thank you so much for being so strong and always carrying me. I'm sorry that you're sore, not feeling well today, but we're going to get you healed up. And it's really important to have those conversations with ourselves because the old me and many of us, are taught to just be like, oh, it's my stupid foot and, fuck that. And it's terrible. And oh, this is the worst thing in the world. But if there's one thing I've learned through the womb space and holding space in the feminine, it's that honoring whatever feelings are coming through you authentically and doing your best not to judge them. I get a lot of opportunities with that with my gout and my fibromyalgia, and I feel like I'm really just getting stronger with it, and I'm allowing it to grow me, and I'm allowing it to help me to evolve and witness my pain as opposed to suffer from it.
I honor that. This morning I pulled a couple cards for us from this deck called Soulful Woman, and it's by Shushan Mavsison and Gemma Summers. I don't know if I said their names correctly, but it's a really pretty deck. And there's two cards that came through, so I just want to share them. I don't usually do this, but I wanted to share what they said. They have a little guidance book that comes with them. So the first card is Time of Fallow. And it's really beautiful. It's like this goddess, earth creature breathing out some, watery looking air with beautiful flowers all around her. And it says, creative manifestation occurs more easily when I have nurtured myself and honored my time of fallow. And the description in the guidebook says, my times of fallow are peak periods for nurturing my soul and trusting my life path. The winters of my life, when people, projects, or passion have withered away, are opportunities for tapping into unseen resources within me. I honor my time of fallow as a spiritual time, a time to rest in the nurturing darkness. It is a time when the deep roots of my inner being are nourished and replenished. When I enter the fallow time, I accept that there is no point in digging around trying to find the new buds. Fallow time calls for receptive stillness. I bring my presence into my body's needs, inner sensations, and changing moods. I tune into those things that replenish, restore, and nourish me. There's greater potential for creative manifestation once I have nurtured myself and honored my time of fallow. And I thought that was really beautiful because Mandee and I feel like both with, fibromyalgia and different things that rise and fall away and the creative womb space and birthing new projects process, it's really important to honor the internal winters and the rediscovery that occurs and that depths of the womb space. So I thought that was really beautiful to share. And the other one was Ageless Beauty. And it is an angelic woman with her head kind of tilted to the side, sort of like gazing into your eyes. There's roses around her and a kind of tropical flower blooming from this heart space in front of her, and it says Mi Corazon. And it says another word, but it's partially covered by the bottom of the card. And it says, Ageless Beauty. With grace, dignity, and strength, I grow into the unique texture of my feminine soul. And it says, as each year passes, I am more and more inspired to live with strength, beauty, and grace. I understand that embracing my wholeness, all of my gifts, mysteries, mistakes, and shortcomings, is vital to my aging process. Therefore, I live my own life with no one else's. With every passing decade, I grow into the depth, power, and unique texture of my feminine soul. As I do so, I recognize the importance of releasing my younger self, as well as those parts of myself that over-adapt, over-give, and over-accommodate at the expense of my own well-being. So I thought that was just really nice because, you know, we're all moving through different parts of our feminine journey here, and with society demands and pressures and, you know, coping with our own unique physical experience, it's really important to be super kind to ourselves, as you were saying, Mandee, about what our true experience is so that we can really embody our best self here.
Oh, thank you. That was beautiful and so on point, not only for myself, but for the energy in general. And I've noticed there's been a lot of, if we look at it collectively, there's been a lot of exits and transitions and deaths going on. There's been a lot of entrances and births and new life coming into the world. I know several friends this week who have been injured or had surgeries or have been in the hospital for heart things or gallbladder things, or a friend of ours had foot surgery, all kinds of stuff going on right now. And, you know, it's hard to always tell exactly what's going on cosmically, but I know that there's a big energetic shift happening. And, you know, spring has sprung and summer is almost here in the northern hemisphere. And I think it's important, especially, you know, for women to just honor how they're feeling. And even though, you know, it's sunny and it's nice outside in the north, you know, you might need to rest a little and nurture yourself and take care of yourself and allow your body's energy to be in more of a winter kind of energy as opposed to pushing yourself to be productive, as Heidi was alluding to. So I love those cards, and I honor that. Thank you, sister.
Thank you.
I do have a few things I kind of want to talk about today.
Ooh, do share. I'm excited to hear.
Well, there's a few things going on. The first thing that I saw this week that I wanted to discuss here on Womb Magic was an article I read about how women are being tortured because they're forced to give birth lying on their backs, and it's not natural, and it causes a lot of issues in the birth canal and straining and tearing and ripping and breaking of the sacrum sometimes, and that naturally and intuitively women are supposed to be giving birth standing in more of an upright position or bent over fetal. I guess you see that in a lot of indigenous cultures and other places around the world. You know, we're here in the United States, and it's very traditional to go to the hospital and lay down in a bed, and it all happens that way. And it just like put all of these light bulbs in my mind, in my heart, and I'm like, oh my goodness, that makes so much sense. And when we look at animals giving birth, it's more of they're moving around, and it's more of like they're dancing to the rhythm of the life that's kind of coming through them, and they honor it. And it was very fascinating. And so I was curious if you had heard anything about this, Heidi, or if it had been talked about in your class maybe, and what insights you have. Yes.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that's so funny because that was one of the things I wanted to talk about too. So, as far as I'm aware, so if you give birth in a hospital, it is required that you birth in the bed, but you have options as far as like whether you're on your back, on your side, or like hands and knees, because the bed can move up and down, and this might vary by hospital, but hospitals around in and around the Austin area, Austin, Texas, where I'm at, what I was learning from the class is that you don't have as many options, but you still have options. So essentially, there's all kinds of like fancy birthing tools that are at your disposal if you birth in a hospital. So you just have to ask for them and advocate for them. So what I've been learning most through this class is that if you birth, whether you birth at home or in a hospital or a birth center, it's really important that you yourself, as well as like your partner or your birth support person, advocates for what you actually want and need. So some people, like if you go to a hospital and the doctors are used to like and nurses are used to everyone delivering on their back, they might not suggest that you try your side or something like that, just because of habit, like you're another room, you're another number, like in their shift. But if you know, are mindful enough, like it really just depends on who you're dealing with. But if you're mindful enough, you can say, hey, like, what if we try on my side? Or what if we try hands and knees? What they do, it's really fascinating. What they do with hands and knees is they like lift the back of the bed, the table, whatever you want to call it, up. So you can kind of like hold on to the back of the table to like just have some leverage essentially. And you can push from hands and knees that way. Also, there's this like squat bar or whatever, and it goes over the top of the bed, and you can grab onto it kind of like a pull-up bar and have your feet supported in the stirrups or on the bed, like just have a different position, and you can attach like a rebozo or a sheet over the top of it and use that as leverage to kind of pull, when you bear down, like you pull towards yourself. So you're utilizing more leverage. And it's really common. I didn't know it was really common to use the squat bar and to, you know, utilize like a sheet to pull for leverage and all kinds of stuff. But there's a lot of different variations, and it is really common. It's more common if you birth on your back to end up needing an episiotomy or tearing naturally. But there are options. So if you do end up going to a hospital or you feel like that's best for you, whatever occurs in your journey, it's really important that you advocate for yourself and ask for what you want. But of course, if you're birthing at home or in a birth center, you do have more freedom to, when you get to that second stage of labor where you're pushing, you have more freedom to like move around, deliver in a squat on the floor if you want to. Like, it doesn't really matter. But I will say in the hospital, they typically, unless there's complications with the baby and you need to be attached to a monitor, you can request like intermittent monitoring rather than being attached to the monitor the whole time. And these are all questions to go over with your care provider before you ever deliver. Like, will you support intermittent monitoring? Because they really don't, unless there's intense complications with the baby, they don't need to monitor, like have that thing strapped around your belly attached to the bed the whole time. Okay. But there is freedom if you do like intermittent monitoring all the way through transition. So you have early labor, active labor, moving through transition before pushing. So you don't really have to be fully in the bed until pushing. But yeah, as Mandee was saying, like gravity, you want to utilize gravity to the best of your ability to help the baby move down the birth canal. And if you're lying on your back, it closes the pelvis, which which doesn't help anything. So just things to be mindful of. Also, it was interesting, the last class we were in, we learned about epidurals and all kinds of medicated supports, and then cesarean sections as well. It was just really interesting to learn about all the different processes that are possible with the birthing person. So
I love that, and I'm so excited that you're learning about this, and you did get to learn about this now, because it just made so much sense to me, and it felt right intuitively, and and working with the laws of gravity and your body, and allowing your body to mold and shift and move and shape, and when we know better, we do better, and it's something that I had never really even given much consideration to. I haven't had a baby yet, so I'm sure I would have given it more consideration had I gone through that experience. But it just made sense looking at it all and seeing, how women's bodies work, and especially the part where it talked about, the broken bones and the sacrum maybe breaking and more tearing. I was like, oh, wow, this makes so much sense. So thank you, Heidi, for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like there was, dang, I wish I had it. There's a thing I wanted to share just from the class. I'm looking through my papers right now.
I'm sure it'll come back.
Yeah, it'll probably come back to me.
I'm sure it'll come back. I did want to say, too, the other part that I wanted to talk about this morning was PBS put out an article a couple days ago about nuns in the church who were raped and forced to get abortions. And it's something that's been kind of a dark and dirty secret for a very long time in society. It's something I've always intuitively just kind of known to be the truth. I think via my past lives and my experiences and the things that I've experienced, it's just I've always felt that energy there. And I was really sad to hear some of these stories, but I was also really happy and gladdened that it was being brought into the light and people were able to talk about it. And they had several interviews with nuns who have experienced this and are no longer part of the church. The Pope is trying to make ways for the nuns to be able to report this abuse and it actually be seen and heard, because one of the nuns was talking about how she had told her Mother Superior how she was being raped by one of the men in the church, and the mother made her feel really bad and said it was her fault because she was too whatever, too attractive, too dressing too whatever, this and that, trying to put the blame back on her, and the nun had felt very hopeless at that point. She ended up leaving the church and starting her own life, but that's part of the problem is many of these nuns are very much, it's kind of modern day slavery in a lot of ways, and they're imprisoned to the church. They do all of the work, they feed the men, they clean the church and the houses, they teach children, they do all kinds of things, and then they're left with almost no money. So if they do want to escape, it's very hard for them to do that. So it was all a very interesting and enlightening article that I read, and I was really happy that it had been produced and talked about.
Wow, I had no idea. I mean, I'm not surprised whatsoever, unfortunately, but I wish, I'm just really glad that you shared that. I had no idea. I find that really interesting, the intersection of, sexual abuse with religion and the interwoven movement of the patriarchy throughout religion and history. It's all really fascinating to look at from a step back, but up close, it's really difficult to see some of these harder topics being discussed.
Absolutely. And when I was reading it, there was like some of my Kali Ma, my goddess energy, and my rage was coming through, and I was like envisioning memes that I could make, and being like, getting sassy and salty with it. And then I was like sullen, and I was kind of sad, and I'm like, oh, this just sucks. This has been going on for so long. And it made me really reflect upon us in womb space and the fact that sexual energy is incredibly important and it's a human need and it's a natural process, and the fact that we've had all of these religions, Catholic, Catholicism particularly clearly, that suppresses our sexual needs and appetites and doesn't recognize it. And it's led to all of these really unhealthy things and lots of traumas and abuse that are not acceptable. And had, our sexuality been recognized in the past as something that could be liberating and free and beautiful and part of you and your energy, essentially, we would have been able to avoid a lot of this. But because sexual energy is a part of us and it's so powerful, an easy way to suppress society would be to shame and guilt and take away that very, very natural part of our being. And, and it just proves over and over, we had all the scandals with all the altar boys over the past 10 years, and the molestation happening with priests and altar boys, and that was shocking and, sick and shocking and sad and all kinds of things. And it got some light and talked about a little bit, but it's still very hard for the men especially to talk about what they've experienced and survived. And I think the overall thing is to really realize, now that it's coming out with the nuns too, that this way of being isn't working for people anymore. And it's creating really, nasty monsters in our closets because we're not expressing, a need that is, a right that we deserve as being a human being. We're literally born here via the energy of orgasm. That's how we kind of can make our play and our entrance into this planet and incarnate. And it's just wild. And it's one of the first things babies do is when they can touch themselves and explore. Sexual energy is a very important part of who we are. And suppressing that only creates hardship, it seems.
I completely agree with this. And it just makes me think about when you're raised in a religious home. Our society is very has been shaped so much by religion as well, even if you didn't grow up in a religious home. But specifically, if you grew up in a religious home, there's a lot of guilting around sexual exploration and around what it means to be a woman. This has been my experience, at least what I know to be true. And the guilt leads to a lot of shame. And so I encourage anyone that has experienced this to just be really gentle with yourself. I feel like I'm a broken record sometimes because I'm always like, be really gentle. There's layers to everything. But there really is so many layers and levels of shame that, if you've experienced it for 18 years or something, that doesn't just go away overnight. And so if you see areas of your life where shame starts to pop up again, it's just an opportunity to explore and deepen and soften and allow yourself to heal in a deeper way. And so shame has been the thing that I feel keeps women trapped inside of their boxes. So really important to just be gentle as you move through your truth, discovering what feels right for you in a time frame that is not rushed and that feels safe.
I love that. And I agree. And, and I love studying Louise Hay. She's the founder of Hay House and so many of her spiritual books and authors and community and connection. And, and she always says, like, all disease is rooted basically in guilt, shame, and resentment. And that's what causes disease within the body. And it's these repetitive thoughts that we have over and over of not being good enough, not being enough, feeling shameful for who we are in our existence and our actions and the things we've done. Of course, there's times where we learn and we grow and we do things that weren't the best, but we were never really meant to be shamed for it. We were meant to be able to learn from it and grow from it. And repeating all of this shame is just keeping everyone suppressed and in the dark and not, able to love themselves and others completely and wholly. And it's going to take a long time to start undoing all these thick layers of shame that have been put on, us individually and our societies and the world. And it's a huge conversation that needs to be had. I'm happy to see it. I see with the Me Too movement, the Me Too movement, gave credit in the in the PBS article because it really gave the nuns an opportunity to say, nuns too, and us too, and me too. And it took them a long time to do that, and they're just starting to. And I'm sure that there's backlash for the ones who are brave enough to do it. But it's really important to start just exposing some of these things and just sitting with them and saying, you know what? I love myself. I forgive myself. I release the shame that I feel around this. When I know better, I do better. I didn't know better then. I know better now. And, the best way that I can heal this is simply by loving and accepting who I am in this moment.
That's beautiful. And also, I'd like to mention that if you particularly dealt with issues, physiological dysfunction, I don't want to say dysfunction, but physiological concerns with your womb space, with your lady landscape, all of that stuff, particularly if you've experienced sexual abuse or shame, learning about some of this stuff can cause past life memories, can cause spontaneous healing, can cause some physiological energy movement in your body. In this class I'm taking, the first class I went to, intense cramping and discomfort in my womb space, swelling of the abdomen during the first class. Second, I went home and it subsided over a couple hours, and it was really uncomfortable. And same thing during the other class this week. And I tend to get some social anxiety sometimes around just in different situations, especially if it's something I probably really need to do. And I try to, talk myself out of why I should go. I just want people to be aware that it's not necessarily a pretty process, and it's definitely true for me that it's not cute, and I deal with I'm still working through a lot of my layers of shame and guilt, and just being really honest with myself and allowing myself to explore and learn, and it's all really helpful in the long run, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's without discomfort. And it's really important to make people aware of that, because oftentimes we don't like to get too far out of our comfort zone, but outside of your comfort zone is where most of the healing happens. So just things to be mindful of.
That's beautiful and incredibly important, and seeing as I woke up in pain this morning and we talked about pain and physical pain, it's very true. And the same goes for emotional pain. And as we're healing some of these wounds and triggers and things within us, we need to be gentle with ourselves, and we need to just honor it, and a lot of times when we feel that, it's energy releasing, and, and we can say, thank you, pain, for showing up and releasing and allowing this part of me to start to be healed. And, and it doesn't happen instantly. Everybody wants, instant healers and instant gratification in our instant society. And it took a while to compound these layers and create, our beliefs and our thoughts and our realities and situations. And it takes time and ease and grace and love and compassion with ourselves to unwrap all of those layers. And especially, as Heidi was saying, when you are in discomfort or pain, whether physical or emotional, meeting yourself with love and grace and simply witnessing what's happening. And if you can take it a step further and thank it for the experience, you're really on the golden track. But it is hard to do that. Oh, well, Heidi, I think we're going to just do a half-hour show today, right?
Yeah, I feel like that feels good for today.
Excellent. Is there anything that you wanted to say or close out with or anything at the end of our show today?
Maybe just a reminder to breathe today, to breathe into your lower abdomen, really nourish your womb space with beautiful big breaths as you can, and to just move about the day with mindfulness and gentleness. And that's all.
That felt good. You're here with Heidi. Heidi, I almost gave you my last name, Heidi Summers and Mandee Elam. And we're here on the Heart Over Ego Radio Network. We hold the womb space here most Friday mornings at 9:30 a.m. You can always catch our replay on our Facebook page, which is Facebook.com/Womb Magic Movement. And then we also have the Spreaker app. You can download our podcast directly on the Spreaker app. You can re-listen to it here on Blog Talk. And then Spreaker usually turns it into a YouTube audio clip on the day after our show. So if you miss our show and you want to catch up on more, they're all on YouTube. You just have to Google Womb Magic and Spreaker and you'll find us. And we thank you so much for tuning in and joining us and holding womb space with us. Thank you for being here, Heidi.
Thank you, Mandee. Have a beautiful day.
You too. All the love and light. Thank you, listeners. Bye-bye.